before the government, and it's important enough for me, therefore, to be here. Honorable Chairman, sir, let me just straight away say that, unfortunately, Aadhaar, like GST, is really a lesson for what should obtain in this country in terms of bipartisanship. We've seen Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary ji now taking credit for Aadhaar, that we initiated it, now they're opposing it. Unfortunately, the Treasury benches today are waxing eloquent about the virtues of Aadhaar. They were opposing it when they were in the opposition. Like the GST, unfortunately, this is not good for this country, and therefore I plead and implore both the major political parties that in future, at least when they know in their hearts of hearts that something is in the interest of the country, come up with constructive suggestions as we do in Orissa, from Orissa, rather than point blank just, on a matter of principle, just keep objecting. Now, let me just straight away say that most of the issues today are settled by the Honorable Supreme Court's judgment, the 4-1 majority judgment, as well as the earlier judgment of Puttaswamy, which is the right to privacy judgment. What the government is really doing is tinkering with the law. It will continue to tinker with the law. It's a new law. As this law distills, as this law crystallizes, we will see that many more amendments will come about. But the fact is, the basic fulcrum of the law is now, the virus is upheld, the constitutionality is upheld. So therefore, there is no question now of going back on Aadhaar. Aadhaar is now good law. Aadhaar is now good practice in this country. That's the first thing that we have to acknowledge. And in fact, the Orissa government, let me tell you straight away, Honorable Chairperson, right after the Constitutional Bench judgment, which was recently, we've in fact given effect to it in large measure in Orissa, and we have benefited. Lakhs and lakhs of people who ought not to have been benefiting from government schemes, particularly the new Kalia scheme that we have just initiated for farmer welfare, have been weeded out thanks to Aadhaar. It's proved beneficial in Orissa. So therefore, as a matter of principle, I believe that Aadhaar is good law, as the Supreme Court has said, and is good in practice and execution as well. The misgivings that have been projected in this House, and principally by a very ardent opponent of this government, who I think in principle, the TMC led by Mahua Mitraji, who actually said that we are in principle probably happy to support this legislation, provided the other limb that the Supreme Court has mentioned, which is the data protection bill, that should be brought in simultaneously. I think that seems to be the basic sentiment of a section of this House, and that sentiment, may I say, Honourable Chairperson, is not unfounded. And I think the Honourable Law Minister, who is a very eminent senior advocate himself, will see that the Supreme Court judgment is not just full of pious homilies. The Supreme Court judgment practically is in the nature of directions expressly given to the government, or in any event conceded by the learned Attorney General. So just a few sentences of the Supreme Court judgment are important, and I want to stress on that, and the practical problems that we are suffering today because of the absence of this data protection bill, which should have been really, I thought, brought along with this so that the House could then on a bipartisan basis have cleared both. The Supreme Court has clearly said that we have impressed, and I'm quoting, we are also impressed upon the respondents, this is Justice Sikri's majority judgment. We've also impressed upon the respondents that the discussion hereafter would reveal to bring about a robust data protection regime in the form of an enactment on the basis of the Sri Krishna Committee report with necessary modifications thereto as may be deemed appropriate. This carries on all the way through. Notwithstanding the statutory provision discussed above, we are of the view there is a need for proper legislative mechanism for data protection. So it's a virtual mandamus given to the government. It goes on, the draft bill and the report cull out rights and obligations of the data fiduciary and data controller respectively. Then thereafter, there may be indeed scope for further fine-tuning of this law through a consultative process. However, we are not far away from a comprehensive data protection regime which entrenches informational and data privacy within our laws and legal system. We hope that there would be a robust statutory regime in place in the near future. So this is as good as a mandamus given to the government. Justice Ashok Bhushan's judgment again concurs. The report having been submitted, we hope that law pertaining to personal data protection shall be in place very soon, taking care of several apprehensions expressed by the petitioners there and people like Mahua Mitra here and other speakers indeed, who have expressed, I think, the same kind of misgivings. Now, let me straight away, Honourable Chairperson, draw the kind attention of the Honourable Minister, since he is also in charge of two very important departments of both IT as well as telecom, that information and data now is the new oil of the 21st century. This is going to be how society is going to be driven going forward. So therefore, whoever controls information and data is going to be in this incredibly powerful position to be able to control our lives. I mean, we've seen a country like the United States, such a powerful country. There is now so much debate on whether the US elections were actually influenced by Analytica, a British company, and at the behest of another foreign power. And there's a massive amount of debate on that issue in the United States. The reason I'm saying this, and I don't intend to target A company or B company, but for sure, we have a neighbor who is hell-bent on aggrandizing data and information from India. And it's not going to be for the benefit of India and Indians, it's going to be for their benefit and their future, because they actually believe in planning centuries ahead. Mr. Shashi, it's very ironical, Mr. Shashi Tharoor and the Swadeshi Jagran Manch are completely opposite sides of the coin, but yet they are on the same page as far as, for instance, this company, this Chinese company called ByteDance, which promotes TikTok and Hello in this country. Both of them are on the same page. The Swadeshi Jagran Manch has written a savage letter, a stinging indictment to the Honorable Prime Minister, showing how this particular company is engaged in such iniquitous, nefarious, egregious activities in this country that I had 10 minutes, it's not even 8 minutes, Mr. Chairman, please. I'm watching the clock like a hawk.
Sorry.
So please, I have one eye there.
No, the time allocated for you is just 4 minutes.
Now, give me a couple of minutes.
I'm just
this is a little
cautioning
important.
You. This is a very important
Mr.
bill.
Chairperson,
academic and intellectual exercise is required.
I'd be the last one to waste the time of this House. It's in the interest that members know what is happening.
I'm only cautioning you that the time is over. Time allocated.
Give me another couple of minutes. The reason I'm saying this, 300 million users in this country, in India alone, are today using TikTok. 2 out of 3 TikTok users are coming from India. So can you imagine the amount of information and data that is being aggrandized by them? Their reply to Mr. Tharoor was that as of, let me just read out what they have said. We have no existing relationship with the Chinese government. What does that mean? It means you had a past relationship, and then going forward, there is no guarantee you will not have a relationship. It's well known, as the Swadeshi Jagran Manch letter says, that any kind of underbidding that takes place, undercutting that takes place in these telecom sector tenders in India is done by these Chinese companies because they have the full backing and the might and the power of the Chinese government. Otherwise, there's no way they'd be doing it. They are sharing all their data with the Chinese companies as well as with the Chinese government. So eventually, it is very, very important that going forward, the Treasury benches also recognize the fact that while today they may be beneficiaries of agencies like TikTok and Hello, because perhaps it's said it was helpful in their winning the elections, tomorrow the very same agencies and instrumentalities would turn against you. So therefore, you will be hoist on your own petard. We are all going to be victims eventually because we as Indians are going to be victims. So therefore, I urge the Honorable Minister that the time has really come that when companies which are $75–100 billion companies are operating in India with Indian money, and by the way, they are paying people to be their users, to be giving them information, to be information providers. So they are paying handsome amounts. And it's also causing social tensions. The other day in Orissa, in a children's pediatric hospital, there were nurses on TikTok who were dancing to Hindi music in full nurses' uniforms. So it's shocking what is happening because people are being paid for it. So therefore, I would urge the Honorable Minister, he's well-meaning when he brings in amendments to bring this legislation in line with the Supreme Court judgment, but kindly see that the other section of it and the other limb of it, which the Supreme Court has virtually directed the government to do, bring in your data protection because we need protection from these kind of egregious agencies which are otherwise going to create mayhem in this country. With this, I finish my deliberative process and I would urge the government to kindly consider this going forward, and we are supporting you on this very important bill.
Thank you, Sri Pinangi Mishra. Next speaker is Sri Ritesh Pandey.